My name is Amelia. I'm 27 years old, and 2 weeks before my wedding, my mother called to tell me that she and my father had decided not to attend. Her tone was calm, measured, almost rehearsed. I remember staring at my phone, my mind unable to translate her words into meaning. "What do you mean you're not coming? Mom, the wedding is in 2 weeks." She sighed the way she always did when she thought I was being dramatic. "Your wedding is overshadowing your brother's. He's still adjusting to married life, sweetheart. A big celebration might make him feel inadequate." For several seconds, I simply blinked at the wall of my office. My younger brother Tyler had always been the golden child. Charming, athletic, adored. My older brother Richard, the recently married one, was the family's pride, the man who had supposedly set the standard. And me? I'd grown up as the space filler between them, the middle daughter who worked hard, stayed quiet, and learned how to disappear on command. I swallowed. "Mom, Richard got married 6 months ago." "Exactly," she replied, her voice smooth. "And now you're trying to one-up him with all this grandness." That's when the truth finally settled into my bones. My family didn't want me to succeed. They wanted me to stay small. I've always been the quiet achiever, a corporate attorney at a top law firm, someone who built her career through late nights, relentless studying, and strict discipline. My family barely reacted when I got into law school. They barely said anything when I graduated with honors. When I made senior associate, my mother responded with, "That's nice, dear. Did you hear Tyler was chosen captain of his team?" Eventually, I stopped sharing. I shrank myself. I became the daughter who never demanded praise, attention, or celebration. But planning my wedding this one day felt like the one moment I wanted to be seen. David, my fiancé, came from a warm and expressive family. They were flying in from across the country, excited to celebrate us. We'd booked a historic ballroom, a classical string quartet, and elegant decor. Yes, it was grand, but it was ours. 3 months before the wedding, the first cracks appeared. My mother called me while I was reviewing contracts at work. "Honey, your wedding seems very extravagant," she began, her tone laced with implication. "Mom, it's just a celebration we've been planning for months." "Well, you know how Richard prefers intimate settings. His wedding had such beautiful simplicity." I inhaled slowly. My wedding isn't about Richard's preferences. "I know, but the family is still adjusting to his marriage. A big event might make him feel less special." There it was, the message I'd grown up with. My happiness must not exceed anyone else's, especially my brother's. As the weeks passed, subtle hints became instructions. My father called to suggest I reduce the guest list. 180 people is unreasonable, he insisted. Maybe something closer to what your brother had. I tried to explain that David's family alone accounted for nearly half the guests. My father hummed disapprovingly. The translation was clear. Your wedding must match your brother's, nothing more. Then, 2 weeks before the big day, came the call that changed everything. "Amelia," my mother said without greeting, "your father and I have decided we will not be attending your wedding." It was a knife between my ribs. Not even twisted, just left there to bleed. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I whispered. "You're overshadowing your brother," she repeated. "He's still adjusting. We don't want your wedding to cause emotional distress." "So you're boycotting my wedding to protect him from feeling insecure?" I asked. "We're supporting the family member that needs us most." And apparently that was never me. Within days, aunts, uncles, and longtime family friends began canceling too. The excuses were laughable. "Things feel tense in the family. We don't want to worsen the situation. Your mom mentioned it's not the right time." My RSVP list dropped from 180 to around 110. Then Richard called. "Mom and Dad are really upset, Amelia," he said, sounding genuinely irritated. "They said you're being selfish." "Selfish?" I repeated. "They're refusing to come to my wedding." Well, my marriage is still new. They're involved in helping us adjust. Your big wedding is taking attention away, and honestly, you've always been independent. You don't need them the way I do. The entitlement was staggering. The next day, Tyler called too. Look, Amelia, maybe you could just tone it down, make it more family-focused. Be the bigger person. There it was again. My lifelong assignment. Be smaller so my brothers can be bigger. That night, I broke down. Years of swallowed hurt came rushing out, and then, unexpectedly, something inside me hardened. A shift. A line I'd never allowed myself to cross. I realized my family wasn't protecting Richard. They were protecting the family hierarchy, and my success threatened it. I called my therapist. Your family punishes you every time you become visible, she said gently. That isn't love. That's control. I decided then. The wedding would continue as planned, with or without them. I told David everything. He didn't hesitate. Then we celebrate with people who actually care, he said. I drafted an email to the family. My wedding will proceed on June 22nd at 6 p.m. I would love to have you there, but I'm not shrinking my celebration to accommodate anyone's insecurities. Attend if you wish. If not, I understand. I won't apologize for building a joyful life. What my family didn't know was that I had quietly been documenting their behavior for years, not to expose them, but to remind myself that I wasn't imagining their favoritism. I saved messages, voicemails, and notes from therapy describing every moment they'd dismissed my accomplishments. Richard's wedding cost $32,000 with 120 guests. Mine was $45,000 with 180 guests because David's family was large, not because I wanted to outshine anyone. I had made partner at my firm, a promotion I hadn't told my family about. I was financially independent. Their absence couldn't ruin my life, only reveal their priorities. 1 week before the wedding, my father emailed, "We'll attend the rehearsal dinner. We've decided to be supportive." It wasn't an apology. It was a power move. I didn't respond. The night before the wedding, my mother called claiming my father was having a panic attack over my event and begged me to comfort him. No, I said gently, I'm not managing your emotional crisis before my wedding. I turned off my phone. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. My wedding was beautiful, peaceful, mine. I got ready surrounded by David's family and my best friend. My dress shimmered under soft morning light. When David saw me, his eyes filled with tears. You look like everything I've ever hoped for, he whispered. The ceremony was magical. The chairs where my parents should have sat remained empty. I noticed. Everyone noticed. But instead of shame, I felt something unexpected. Freedom. Richard came, but hovered near the back, uneasy. Tyler lingered on the edges like a guilty shadow. Midway through the reception, my mother arrived alone. She waited until after the first dance to approach me. Amelia, I'm sorry. We shouldn't have boycotted. Can you forgive us? I guided her away from the dance floor. Mom, I said softly, you didn't boycott because Richard needed support. You boycotted because my success didn't fit your family narrative. Her lips parted, stunned. I have every message, every email, every moment you minimized my accomplishments. When I got into law school, you changed the subject. When I made senior associate, you talked about Tyler's new hobby. When I became partner, you didn't even know. Her face paled. I love you, I continued, but I refuse to shrink anymore. This wedding is the beginning of me taking up the space I've earned. She had nothing to say. I handed her my business card. Here's my direct line. As a partner. Be proud of me or stay silent, but I'm done waiting for your approval. Then I walked back to my reception and into David's arms. My mother left quietly. Richard apologized later for taking part. Tyler slipped out without a word. My father called the next morning with an apology of his own. I accepted their attempts at reconciliation, but on my terms, with boundaries, with distance, with clarity. Today, our relationship is cautious, but improving. My parents respect the boundaries I set. They even brag about my promotion now, something they once ignored. But I no longer need their validation. My life is full. My marriage is strong. My friends, David's family, and my colleagues, they are my true support system. I framed a photo for my wedding and placed it in my office. It reminds me of the moment I stopped apologizing for shining.